Hey everyone, and welcome. We're swimming in data all the time, right? Lists of numbers everywhere. But here's the big question. How do you take a whole bunch of numbers and find that one number that kind of sums it all up? That's what we're going to crack today.
Think about it for a second. You see this stuff everywhere. Average test scores, the typical price of a house in your neighborhood, even the average height of a sports team. We're always on the hunt for that one typical number. But what's the best way to actually find it?
Well, for this kind of job, we've got two main tools in our statistical toolkit. First up is the one you've probably known forever, the mean. That's just a fancy word for the average. And our second tool, that's the median. And as its name suggests, it's all about finding what's smack dab in the middle.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to decode the mean. Then we'll uncover some of its secret properties, kind of like power-ups. After that, we'll solve a few mean puzzles. Then we'll switch gears and meet the median. And we'll wrap it all up by figuring out the big one. When do you use which?
Okay, let's dive into level 1, decoding the mean. You might think you know the average, but we're going to pop the hood and see what really makes it tick.
All right, so what is the mean officially? It's pretty simple, really. You just add up everything you've got and then divide by the number of things you added. I like to think of it as the fair share number. Imagine you took all the pizza slices and divided them perfectly evenly among everyone. The number of slices each person gets, that's the mean. It's the ultimate equalizer. And actually calculating it, it's a super simple three-step recipe. Step 1, add them all up. Get that total sum. Step 2, count them up. How many numbers are you working with? And step 3, the finale, just divide that big sum by the count. Boom, done. You've got the mean.
Okay, let's make this real. Check out this example. We want the mean height of these 6 boys. So what do? We follow our recipe. We add up all their heights. That gives us a grand total of 930 centimeters. Then we divide that by the number of boys, which is 6, and bingo, the mean height is 155 centimeters.
All right, time to level up. Let's talk about the means power-ups. Seriously, these are some awesome secret tricks that are going to make working with the mean way, way easier.
These little shortcuts are honestly like magic. Here's the deal. If you do the same thing to every single number in your list, the mean does that exact same thing. So let's say a teacher decides to give every student 5 bonus points on a test. Do you have to recalculate the average for the whole class? Nope. You just take the old average and add 5. That's it. And this trick works for subtracting, multiplying, and dividing too. It's a huge time saver.
And look, here's the proof. The mean of this first set of numbers is 13.5. Now, what if we add 3 to every single one of those numbers? Instead of adding them all up again and dividing, we're not going to do that. We just use our power-up. We take the old mean, 13.5, and just add 3. The new mean is 16.5. See? So much faster.
All right, you've learned the moves, you've got the power-ups. It's time for the boss level, solving mean puzzles. Let's put these skills to the test with a classic, real-world problem.
So picture this. It happens all the time, right? Somebody's entering data, and whoops, they make a typo. They copy a number down wrong. And that one little mistake can completely wreck your mean. So the question is, how do you fix it? Especially if you don't have the original list of numbers to start all over again.
Well, there's a really slick 3-step method to fix this. It's like being a data detective. Step 1, you use the wrong mean to work backwards and figure out what the wrong total sum must have been. Step 2, and this is the clever part, you take that wrong sum, subtract the bad number, and add in the right number. You're correcting the total. And then for step 3, you just take that new, correct total and divide like normal to get the new correct mean. Easy.
Let's walk through it. So in this case, someone accidentally wrote down 125 when it should have been 165. That mistake messed up the mean. So we follow our detective steps. First, we find the incorrect total that was used. Then, we take that total, subtract the wrong number, 125, and add back the right one, 165. That gives us our corrected total. We divide that by the number of students, and what do you know? The real mean was 161 all along.
But the mean isn't perfect. It has a kind of kryptonite. Because it includes every single number in its calculation, just one really, really big or really, really small number, what we call an outlier, can pull the whole average way off balance. And that, my friends, is exactly why we need our second tool, the median.
So what's the median? It's not about the value of the numbers, it's about their position. Simply put, the median is a number that's physically in the middle of the list. But, and this is super, super important, you can't forget this, you have to put the numbers in order first, from smallest to largest. If you don't do that, it won't work. Okay, so how do you find it? Step 1, like we just said, is the most important. Sort your numbers in ascending order. Now, from there, it depends. If you have an odd number of values in your list, like 5 or 7 or 11, it's super easy. The median is just the one number sitting right in the middle. But what if you have an even number of values? Then you'll have two numbers in the middle. So what do? You just find the average of those two middle numbers. That's your median.
And this is a perfect way to see it. On the left, we've got an odd set of numbers. Once they're in order, you can see that middle value. That's our median. Easy peasy. Now look at the right. We've got an even set. So there are two numbers sharing that middle spot. To get the median, we just add them together and divide by 2. Simple as that.
Okay, so this brings us to the grand finale, the big takeaway. We now have two awesome tools, the mean and the median, both designed to find the typical number. So, the million-dollar question is, which one should you use and when?
Here's the key rule to remember. Use the mean when your data is pretty consistent and doesn't have any crazy high or low numbers. Its big advantage is that it accounts for every single piece of data. But you want to use the median when you do have those extreme values, those outliers. The median is like a superhero against outliers because it only looks at the middle number, it completely ignores the crazy ones at the end. So let me leave you with a classic puzzle to really drive this home. Imagine a cafe. There are 9 regular people in there. Then a billionaire walks in. All of a sudden, the mean, or average wealth in that room, jumps to over $100 million. But does that number, 100 million, really describe the typical person in that cafe? Heck no. The billionaire is a massive outlier. In this case, what would give you a better picture of the typical person's wealth? The mean or the median? It just goes to show you, choosing the right tool makes all the difference.